Welcome back, football fans, to another episode of Necessary Roughness right here on the Bite Size Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, John Boyd. We've got Nick Winograd to your left, my right, and we've got Zach Keebler joining us, as will be the case going forward into the season. So this is your new trio. We might see a little bit of Michael here and there as well, and then I'm sure we'll get another member of the crew on, sporadically as things take place surrounding their favorite teams. So, looking forward to the season. First of all, we've got a little bit of news to get to on the NFL side, but I also wanted to start the show off at the top with a little bit of news on the bite-sized side. We are just about to start launching our team-specific podcasts. It's going to be Bite Size NFL Podcast Network, and we will have weekly shows around hopefully your favorite team. We won't have all the teams covered right away, but those will be slowly coming out as the season gets nearer. And by the time we have week one kickoff, we're going to have those up and running with weekly content that'll be audio and video. So you can listen to this on Spotify, or you can catch the video, which will be similar to these. It'll just be pre-recorded, perhaps a little bit more concise. But with that out of the way, there'll be some more things to look forward to. We'll get to the rest of the week's schedule at the end of the show. But before we jump into news and notes and then into our big money segment for the day, the new series we're starting, Nick, Zach, how are you guys doing? How's your week been? How you feeling about the NFL?
Yeah,
Nick,
I'm happy to. First? Yeah, I'll go first. I'm happy to be back for another week. I'm glad that Zach's able to join us for the rest of the time that we're going to do this or whatever. That we're going to do this for. I'm excited for the season. This is really the time that it's finally August, right? It's NFL month. We always talk about Madden season. It's NFL season. This is we've been at this for a while, and this is kind of where the excitement builds again. So I'm very excited to be on the NFL podcast, especially nowadays at this time of the year, having a good week. And yeah, Keeb, what's up with you?
I'm doing pretty well too. I'm excited, like John said, for the team-specific podcast. So that way I don't have to harp on him about the Giants' success and things like that. I can just
not on here anyway. Not
on here. Maybe behind the scenes, but other than that, everything's been good. I'm happy we finally got Saquon back, so that took a little bit of stress off of me. But yeah.
Yes, sir.
I'm also happy to be here, like full time, I guess you could say. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Happy to have you. Nick, for you and I, this will be, by the time we get to like end of October, that'll be a year that we've been doing this show.
Yep.
Almost every week. I mean, we've missed a couple. There was a little bit of a gap when we switched over to the Bite Size sports team here, but if my memory serves, it was only a week or two.
Yeah.
I
was away for that time, and I come back, and you guys were like, "We're switching gears." All right, sounds good. And you were like, "Are you good?" I'm like, "Sure." And like, "Oh, we got a show to do." I was like, "Cool." So yeah, it's been great.
Man.
Anniversary of it, and
exactly. I think it was week 7. I want to say week 7 last year that it was, but yeah, as you join the show, sound off in the chat. Let us know who's listening, and we'll be sure to engage with you as well. If you haven't already, please drop a like on this video. It'll definitely help push it out to more football fans who might enjoy the content. If you haven't subscribed already, go ahead and subscribe. We haven't honed in on exactly what it'll be, but we will have some type of giveaway surrounding reaching 1,000 subscribers this NFL season. So if you've got multiple YouTube accounts, subscribe twice. Anything helps. But we really appreciate anybody who tunes in, especially on a weekly basis. And with that being said, the only real news topic I want to do at least touch on a little bit and get your guys' opinions. I don't know how locked into this you have been necessarily, but it's just kind of the Jonathan Taylor, Jim Irsay spat that's been going on. I mean, there's been, and it's also sort of through the agent. The agent's very heavily involved. The agent's been quote tweeting things, saying it's worse than people are saying it is, saying a lot of things that, in my opinion, could be detrimental to the negotiations at a certain point. Things that should be said behind closed doors. You've got Jim Irsay sounding off to media, saying that, something to the effect of nobody treats players better than the Colts, which is interesting, given some recent history with their past couple of franchise quarterbacks. But Nick, we'll start with you. What is your just kind of vibe around that situation? Do you think he's in Indy this year? Do you think they get a long-term deal worked out? Or do you think this is really just too much conflict to overcome internally?
Yeah, I mean, like, there's been so much with the Colts, right? Like, ever since ever since they had the issues with the quarterback situation, it's just been a complete nightmare. And then they get Jonathan Taylor, who has an incredible breakout season, then has a really, really tough season the year after. When I personally, selected him and predicted him to be the rushing leader, ended up being Josh Jacobs, and JT wasn't really even close last year. Now, they draft Anthony Richardson, and a lot of us were thinking, AR and JT is going to be a great backfield. There's so much talent there. And then all of a sudden, Jonathan Taylor, he just requests a trade out of nowhere. So I do think that it's going to be too much to overcome. I'm not exactly sure where he'll end up being. Irsay's obviously said we're not trading him, and then the agent was saying something, and he was like, "Nah, I've never been injured with that, so like I don't know what you're talking about. I'm totally good." But he was like, "I'm good. Like, what are you talking about? Like, especially when an agent, especially now in this market, he's like, no, like I'm one of the best running backs in this league. Like, do not try to hurt, or like do not like trying to say that I'm like not available to like go. Like, he's on go mode right now. He just doesn't want to play for Indianapolis because he doesn't see that as a winning culture. He had one of the best seasons we've seen out of like a young running back like that, and they didn't even make the playoffs. Like, he was probably like just devastated with that. So and then to see what just like has been going on, he probably just doesn't like the culture. I do think he'll be moved eventually because players do rule, over ownership, in my opinion, and that's why we're watching the game. So I do think that he'll be moved. I just don't really know where.
Yeah, and that's interesting because I could see him being moved. The only like recent precedent we have is the Saquon 1-year deal where they sort of almost met in the middle. More guarantees than the franchise tag, but no long-term security. And yeah, I mean, on video, you don't really see a limp from JT. He's at practice. He's engaged with the running back group. So he's not letting any of that affect him. And I think he's doing everything he needs to do in that regard. But Keebs, let's throw it to you. What's your feel on that situation? Which side of the spectrum do you fall on? Kind of between, they get a long-term deal done and everything is hunky-dory, or he ends up actually getting moved before the season?
I think what they should do is they should ship him to a team that needs a running back, like a top team that needs a running back. You can think of like the Chiefs. You can think of Dalvin Cook hasn't signed yet, but I think it said that he's going to the Jets. But I mean, he'd be a great fit on the Jets team. Things like that. Get what you can out of him, and then let him sign the extension when he gets to the new team. That's more along the side I'm on. My main takeaway from all this is that it seemed like he was doing fine, and then a week into training camp, he requested a trade, which makes me like worry about maybe Anthony Richardson's skill and how he's translating to the NFL, because it's like you take this guy top 5 as a quarterback, and then all of a sudden your star running back, or supposed to be star running back, last year he had a bit of a, I don't want to say dismal season, but it wasn't up to par with like his breakout year.
It's a drop off.
Requesting a trade. requesting a trade right away. So that was my biggest takeaway. So I'm like curious to see how Anthony Richardson is going to translate. But I think if you want to keep him happy, obviously go request a trade. But it's also very interesting hearing like conflicting reports when JT's agent is like he's not hurt, and then Irsay is like he is hurt, and then it's just a whole big thing. But I'm more on JT's side. I think that they should grant his trade request.
Yeah, that'd be cool. It is one of those weird things where it's like, you're the social media aspect of it is really weird because anyone can say whatever. So wherever those reports are coming from, it's tough to gauge. And then it ends up coming all the way back to JT where he's just like, no, what? Like, it's like a weird. They're trying to create leverage almost like they each have burners that they're using on Twitter and are just like throwing stuff out that might help kind of their camp in this department. But I mean, I hope it gets resolved for in Taylor's favor as well. It's interesting though because there's not a huge market for Dalvin Cook, and the Vikings looked to trade him initially as well. Taylor's much younger. And this would be a team that would be acquiring him with the intention of giving him an extension. So it's slightly different circumstantially. But I don't know that the talent gap necessarily is that huge. I think you've definitely got some more years coming with Jonathan Taylor. But it was a weird year last year. I mean, he was outperformed by Zach Moss on paper, who had more yards per carry, more yards per start. Granted, it was Zach Moss running behind the Jeff Saturday coached offensive line and the back half of the season when they sort of figured things out a little bit. But still, it's just you didn't get that real emphatic contract year season from him or not contract year, but approaching extension eligibility year that you saw from Josh Jacobs, for example. Or even Saquon coming back as strong as he did last year. So it's a slightly different situation in that regard, and maybe that's part of the Colts' hesitancy. I think it's probably more so that than the injuries they're trying to fabricate, because I'm not buying those at this juncture. So we'll see what happens there. Not a lot else has gone down. We're not going to talk camp battles or camp highlights necessarily on this show when we're covering the whole league. So let's dive into our segment for the day that will sort of lead us into the season, really. We're going to be going through a series where we're grading every team's position groups. Today we're going to start with the NFC and AFC North. We're going to know North, South, East, West. 4 weeks of this, and then we'll be able to take those composite grades for each team and put together a power ranking for each of the three of us of all 32, which will be fun to refer to later in the season when those things end up being funnily wrong or interestingly correct. There will be some shit talking one way or the other. So let's jump into it. I think we'll start with our boy Nate's Bears in the NFC North. And I he usually ends up in our chat at one time or another, but we might have to have him rewind if he misses the Bears. Found out chat, by the way, if you're in here, who your favorite team is, see if we'll be talking about them today, and we'd also love whatever input you've got on these position group rankings if you're any closer to it than we might be. But let's start with the Bears and the first position group. This is going to be heavily weighted towards the starter, at least this one particularly. But it's the quarterbacks, as you can imagine. So the Bears quarterback room. Sorry, the charger just fell off. When you have to Google to double check yourself on the other quarterbacks on the roster, not a great design, but
No. They have Bills legend in Peterman, man. He's gonna
They
be.
have Bills legend Nathan Peterman. I'm just trying to see if there's anybody else that would beat Nathan Peterman out this year.
Yeah, PJ Walker.
Did they sign PJ Walker?
Yeah, they got PJ Walker. Yeah.
I'm eye on this quarterback room. I thought he went to. I've been getting Chicago's and Detroit's free agency moves confused like a lot. I think it's because the Lions.
He's a Bear.
That threw me off.
He's a Bear. So
that's kind of badass.
We got some QB controversy in Chicago because we have Nate Peterman, who's one of the greatest I've ever seen, and then we have PJ Walker, who listen, I know he can play overseas and for other leagues. Maybe not for the NFL yet, but yeah. And then you got Justin Fields, who apparently, according to head coach Eberflus, he said that he's going to have defenses like just ridiculously confused this year. So we got Justin Fields, PJ Walker, and Nate Peterman. So I mean, this might be the best quarterback depth chart in the league.
It's up there. But I actually kind of like it because I really like PJ Walker. I think he has sort of in the sense that like Taylor Heineke does. I feel like he just kind of has that it factor where like he can start a game for you. He can play some quarterback. He might not be the most gifted physically. I mean, he can throw the ball deep, like nobody's business. Not a terribly accurate quarterback. Not a terribly, proficient processor to my understanding, but, every time we've seen him on the field, whether it's the NFL or otherwise, he kind of has that it factor. So I feel good about even a Justin Fields injury to where I don't feel like the drop-off will be too crazy outside of the way the offense runs. Like, I think he'll be able to get you some points on the board. Nathan Peterman probably won't be able to get you some points on the board, but he's played some NFL football.
Sure has.
Somewhere
he has played NFL football.
I don't want to weigh the backup quarterback too heavily in this, but I think I'm somewhere like B- C+ range, which is higher than I probably would be on Justin Fields in a vacuum, but only by a little bit. So I think I'll go B- actually, which is surprising myself as it's happening. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I was right with you there. I was thinking probably a good C+ with the upside of being like a B+, depending on how Fields performs this year.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, no. I mean, you guys are – I was just trolling a little bit with, just because I'm a Bills fan. Like, Peterman literally threw like 5 picks in his first game ever. So I was, But Justin Fields he really does have the capability to be like a star. Like, he can be. I think someone said that he throws the ball just as well as Trevor Lawrence, but Trevor Lawrence can't run like Justin Fields. And I was like, okay.
Both parts of that statement are very interesting.
Both are very interesting. Again, Lawrence is like 6'6", Fields ain't that. So,
and Lawrence can move too. He can scoot a little bit. I don't know why.
I'm like saying, like, are the people that are saying that like the guys that use him on Madden are like, wow, he's so fast. Yeah. Like, wow, he really runs well. Like, that's great. But like when there's guys coming around, like, is he gonna do something about it? I don't know. Now I could see him having like a very a good season this year, especially with the acquisition of DJ Moore, who's I think undoubtedly the best player on that team. Until Justin, I hope he becomes the best player because the quarterback, it's good to have your best player be the quarterback. So I'd love to see Justin kind of break out this year. I don't think Chicago has a chance to win the division, but if they're anywhere close, then this QB room has to be at least a B. Right now, I would go with Zach. It's a C+. But yeah, absolutely has the capability to be a B, upwards to a B+. If they're sniffing playoffs, I'm guessing Justin Fields has something to do with that, like a large part of that. So in that case, they would be like closer to B+. But right now, we haven't seen it, so C+ for right now.
Yeah, unless you're the Giants, a quarterback is the main focal point of getting you to the playoffs.
Yeah. Correct. I mean, but same with the Giants. We'll talk about it on another show. But he could become like the reason that they're there, not just Saquon.
Yeah.
But right now, yes, it is Saquon. But anything can happen.
Yeah. Speaking of Saquon, let's get to the running backs for Chicago, and I am also higher on this group than I'd like to be as a fan of another NFC North team. But I really like the running backs they have in the room. Lost David Montgomery, yes. But they brought in Deontay Foreman, who just had a really solid year behind the Carolina offensive line, and had some pretty big games. And they also drafted Roschon Johnson out of Texas in the 4th round, if I'm not mistaken. The other back next to Bijan Robinson, who may have had more eyes on him or garnered higher draft selection if he wasn't on the same team as Bijan Robinson. I like Roschon a lot. I think this group will be one of the better kind of 3-man committees. It probably won't grade this as high as even Cleveland when they have a Nick Chubb and whomever else. Like I'll weigh that a little bit more heavily, just because I think the guys like that, Jacobs, Chubb, Saquon, like those transcendent type of running backs don't grow on trees.
Mm-hmm.
The collection of Bears backs sort of do grow on trees in the modern NFL, but they're 3 guys that are very solid. I think they have pretty complementary skill sets with Deontay Foreman being a little bit of that battering ram. Khalil Herbert is sort of your do-it-all guy, and Roschon can pass block. And I think they'll spread the touches around. So I'm kind of in a very similar spot here. I might go a real B though with the running back room. I think it's about as good as you can be, about as good as of a collection of guys as you can have without having that like real star.
Yeah. Zach, what do you think?
I'm in agreement with that. I'm not as familiar with like the Bears running back group, but when you have a running back like Justin Fields, I'm playing.
Well, I mean, but yeah,
I blew the opportunity for that joke.
Yeah, but it does play in, but like for this segment, it doesn't. Just because
Right.
like we're only looking at the running backs, but like over the grand scheme, like we does.
Yeah, if
play
we were
in
talking
the
rushing
ability
attack.
of the team. Yeah, rushing attack. Justin Fields. Is a
Yeah.
big part of it, so.
Yeah.
If we're talking rushing attack, I'm giving this like an A-. But since we're only looking at Khalil Herbert, the rookie Roschon, and like Dante Foreman, it's a different story.
Yeah. I'm in agreement. I'm at like a B around that.
Yeah. So like as I said, like if you're looking at like Justin Fields, who is a very, very solid runner when he has the ball like in his hands, he can make a lot of plays, and he showed it in college. He showed it last year. But when we're looking at Khalil Herbert, who he started his career with 430-ish rushing yards, and now like last year he like jumped up to 730. That's a really nice. That's really actually really good progress. If we could see him get up to like 850 or maybe even 900, all of a sudden after this season, I'm looking at the Bears in a completely different way because we have somebody who's only 24 years old, 25 years old, who can become a 1,000-yard rusher. And usually when those guys do that, they kind of become 1,000-yard rushers. They learn how to do it. Somebody once said you either, you figure the NFL out or you get figured out. And I feel like if Khalil Herbert can like start getting to like 800, 900, he's going to be able to figure this out and be like, boys, like I have this now. I can get to that like 1,000-yard mark, and that's where you really become a really solid runner in this league. Right now, though, if we're saying it on August 1st, 2023, he's not there yet. So I'm going to give it more like a C+, B-, probably leaning towards C+. Okay. While, because, we got a rookie on our hands in Roschon Johnson, and then we got Dante Foreman, who's kind of been all over the place. He's had some good – he's kind of been that guy where he, a team just kind of needs a running back, but, like, they're not looking for him to be the real guy. So if Khalil Herbert's my running back one right now, I'm giving the running back room like a C+. But if he can jolt up to like 850 or rushing yards, 900 this year, I'm definitely looking at a different life after this year. So I'll give it a C+.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense. And Foreman's a little bit older as well. Not exactly sure what you'll get from him this year, if it'll be similar to last. Bears wide receivers, which is now actually a pretty interesting group. Went from one of the worst last year prior to the Claypool trade, and even frankly after the Claypool trade. But the addition of DJ Moore now, so now your three receivers, and this is pass catchers as a whole. So we'll include the tight ends as well. But you've got DJ Moore, Chase Claypool, and Darnell Mooney, which again, like I talked about with the running backs, I feel like it's really complementary skill sets. DJ Moore is sort of your intermediate kind of receiver, a pretty solid route runner, can beat you deep here and there. Chase Claypool's your jump ball winner. And then you got Darnell Mooney, who's like a true deep threat. I think it's a really nice collection of guys. Should help Fields out a lot more. And then, I mean, you've got a decent. You expect some decent progression from the offensive line. Cole Kmet just came back on like Saquon money. It was like 4 years, 52. So the AAV was very similar to that 11 Saquon got. And then they brought over Bob Tunyon from the Packers. So two pretty solid veteran tight ends to add to that group. So this one, I'm probably at a B+ for the wide receivers. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Or the pass catchers. I keep saying wide receivers.
B+ was like exactly where I was thinking. When you insert a guy like DJ Moore, who's like a fantastic number one option, when they've never really had that. Like Claypool's not a number one guy in my opinion. Mooney has the potential to be a solid number two, but again, he's not a number one. So bringing in a guy like DJ Moore is very beneficial and jumps them up a lot. I think a lot of my the way I think about the wide receiver is skewed because of DJ Moore. I bring it up. So yeah, B+, depending on, like you said, how they mesh together. That's right where I'd be.
Cool. How about you, Nick? You kind of in that?
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, okay, so we're talking pass catchers, so tight end counts, Cole Kmet counts, right?
Yep.
And he just got paid big time. So yeah, I mean, when we're talking DJ Moore, and Zach just said, he's that number one option. Yes, they had to give up the number one pick to get him. But they weren't in the market for a quarterback. Me and Zach were actually on a cruise when that happened. And we got the notification. It was like the first day of our cruise, and I was like, "Oh shit, the number one pick was just traded." And he was like, "What?" It was awesome, but they're not in the market for a QB, so why not trade that and get DJ Moore, the number one receiver from Carolina? What a move! And now if Bryce Young doesn't work out for Carolina, they're going to be kicking themselves for losing a guy like that. So they get a number one, and then Chase Claypool can be that type of dude. He was on the Steelers playing a good role. Obviously, yes, he had Big Ben, kind of helping him out early in his career. He kind of went on TikTok a little too much with Juju. Didn't really work out there, but now he's got that, new foundation with Chicago. They're trying to build something cool. They got Tremaine Edmonds from the Bills. They're obviously all in on trying to win the division at some point soon. So when we're looking at, the receiver room, I like Moore. I like Claypool being that number two. And Darnell Mooney, I had him on fantasy last year. Really didn't work out for me all. But that's because Justin Fields was just kind of taking off too much. And he wouldn't really throw it to Mooney as much as I thought he would. And Mooney was also, as Bears fans, he really wasn't that great last year. But Cole Kmet I really like. And, you got Bob Tunyon coming from the Packers, which is going to be really awkward when they go back to Lambeau. I kind of really love their tight ends. So, yeah, I'm going to give them a B+ as well. I think we all agree. Kmet and Tunyon paired with DJ Moore and then Claypool with Mooney, who has the potential to be a number two. So you got a number one, two number twos, and then a really solid tight end group as well.
Yeah, it's a good call. That's funny, actually. I won my money league last year, and it was because of a savvy DJ Moore trade. DJ Moore had 4 or 5 stinkers to start the season. And then I traded for him. I actually traded Mike Evans for him. and there were a couple side pieces involved in the trade, but then that's when he like really took off. He was having 100-yard games. He was winning me games down the stretch, and I won the league. And it's funny that his new teammate kind of tanked yours a little bit. The offensive line's an interesting. Oh, go ahead, Keith.
I was going to say Robert Tonyan whiffed my fantasy last year when I had to audible because Jamar Chase got injured and Breece Hall tore his ACL. I had both of them. So I kind of had to audible that and create some depth. So I had to trade Kittle, get Tonyan, but upgrade to Christian Kirk, who helped me out a lot, and then someone else. So, yeah, I guess a lot of us get fantasy props on that receiving core.
Yeah, man. The O-line's kind of interesting. They did lose James Daniels to Pittsburgh, who was pretty solid. But now it sounds like Cody Whitehair is going to be playing center. Yep. You've got Braxton Jones back. Sounds like Tevin Jenkins will be starting at guard this year. It's a pretty solid group now that I think should be, and they were actually pretty league average last year, which you might not expect, but all the advanced metrics sort of bear that out. No pun intended. But it should be a solid unit again this year. There's not really any. Oh, nice. There's not really any star power. Unless Darnell Wright really hits. But they did replace James Daniels with Nate Davis at right guard. And Tevin Jenkins looks like he will be starting. So, I mean, I think this group could be much better than this. But for now, I'm going to go with a C+. Yeah. I do really like Jones. Cody Whitehair to center should help. Center was a big issue last year. And I liked Nate Davis a lot. But I mean, I think this group could really easily go from that C+ I have now to, an A- even like by the end of the year. If Wright has a season like, Abraham Lucas did at right tackle last year as a rookie, or Charles Cross, Ike Ekwonu, any of those guys who really hit early on. So I think there's a wide range that we could see this go throughout the season. But right now I'm C+. We've got guys moving around to different positions a little bit, which can be tough to capitalize on early. And then we've got a rookie who a lot of this hinges on. So I'm gonna be a little conservative with it and go C+. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I was thinking around like a C+, mainly because it's like some guys whose names don't like stick out as much as other O linemen across the league, things like that. They get the job done, and they have to if we're gonna assume that, like, let's say Justin Fields is gonna go from like a mid quarterback to one of like the upper like top 10, and things like that. And then also for the running back core, for them to be high, you need the O-line to do well. Last year, they weren't anything special. Maybe a couple minor improvements, but I would say, C+.
Cool.
I agree with you guys. Like, as Zach just said, like, there aren't guys that really like pop out at you, except for this guy, Darnell Wright. He's huge, and he was just drafted. And I just wanted to share with you guys this hilarious tidbit on him. He apparently trained for the wide receiver conditioning test, and he did that because he just didn't realize what he was doing. And I totally like, it's just such like a hilarious move because like, as like a guy who went to like a big school, you go and like you get drafted and you're like, hell yeah. And then it's just such like a, like, everybody like seems to make like those type of mistakes when they're like young and they're rookies. I just thought this was so funny. But then of course, like, he got his right tackle, actual plan. But yeah, I just wanted to show you guys that. But yeah, when we're talking about like the Bears, the O-line needs to be really good for Justin Fields to succeed, but if it's not, I mean, this is going to be like the big thing, especially with like what John said, like Darnell Wright, who I just shared about. If he's not up to par, they draft this guy so high because they need him to protect that right side. It's so important. It's like incredibly paramount that they are able to protect him so that he can do what he needs to be doing to become that type of Pro Bowler, guy that is going to help him, get to that next step for the Chicago Bears. So if it's not that great, they're going to be, kind of, in shambles late in the year, especially because of all the injuries they have in O-linemen. When I'm looking at this depth chart of the for the O-line, I'm looking at like a C. I'm not even going to give them a C+. I think it's a C. If Darnell Wright can become a star or like at least like a really solid right tackle, they can get up to C+, B-. But the other guys are definitely going to.
Gotcha. Let's jump to the D-line. And this is a spot we might want you to pull the depth chart back up, Nick, because this is not a good group. Andrew Billings was a big signing. DeMarcus Walker.
Yeah, I got you.
Is Tommy Togiai there? Where did he go? I mean, it's not a good group.
So when we're looking at that, here it'll come up in a second. Here we go. So we're going defense. Yeah. So we got
Justin Jones.
Yeah, DeMarcus.
I like Justin Jones. Yeah, Justin Jones is fine. Javon Dexter might be pretty good. He had terrible get off on tape in college, but apparently that was a coaching thing. He was actually kind of coached to stand up and just hold his ground as opposed to explode off the line. So we might see some big things out of Javon Dexter. Zach Pickens is fine if he could stop the run to save his life. It's not a good group. I kind of like Rasheem Green, formerly from Houston. He's got great size at about 6'5", 280, and some flexibility there, but it's really not a good group. It's one of the worst you'll find. I mean, unless Dexter or Pickens really hit, I'm probably at like a D+ with this group.
Yep.
And so that's basically the front. When we're talking like D line, it's really just the nose tackle and the D tackle position we're looking at, because Travis Gibson and DeMarcus Walker will technically be edge rushers, which will be a separate category. And that group, frankly, might grade lower than this for me, because I do like the potential of the rookies they drafted on the interior. But D+ about the highest I can go when you're just banking on potential in that department.
Yeah. Again, there's no names that really stick out in that regard, like with your edge rushers and things like that. I like the rest of their defense, but when it comes to their line, I think that the run game is going to kill them. Like another team's run game is going to kill them quite a bit. Mm-hmm. So yeah, like you said, we're grading it not on potential, but what it actually is, and I would go probably like a D+.
D+.
So
D+ on the interior and D for the edge rushers. What do you think, Nick?
So I pulled up this before the show. So the quote that they have that they want to show us, and they're going to explain how great this defensive line of the Bears is that they love football. That's great, because I feel like a lot of players in the NFL love football. So like I'm excited for this Bears defensive line.
Dude, listen,
I fucking
love football, and I could not
nap. Yeah, I love football too, and I would get pancaked on the line. So
I would not be able to get.
Guys, listen, they love football over there. Okay? when you talk about do they love ball, oh, don't worry, they love it. Listen, A+, like they love it. No, this like if that's gonna be like the number one thing you're gonna say about like the damn Bears D-line, I can't be okay.
Yeah.
It could be like you could have Aaron Donald and Leonard Floyd and Von Miller, and it could be the 2021 Rams. Then it would be a little different. They still love football, but this Bears D-line, it's got a lot of work to do. I like the the linebacker crew they got, but when we're starting the defense here on the Bears, we're starting with I give them
the number one thing is they love football.
I'll give them a C- because they love football. But yeah, we got some work to do, Bears, on the D line. We got some work to do. You guys helped out, the O line with Darnell Wright, cool. But other than loving football, I don't really see what the Bears D line's going to do for me.
Mm-hmm. So C- on the interior, D+ for you. Keebler, what do you guys think of the edge group? I have a D for the edge group. Travis Gibson, Demarcus Walker, Rasheem Green.
I'll give him a D as well. Yeah.
I was gonna say there's not much to say for them. I would D- even it's just not good.
It's about as bad as a group can get. I think I'm gonna switch mine to a D- actually, because if I see one that's worse, I'm gonna give it an F.
Yeah,
right.
But there isn't really one that's worse. So it's like
I hope. Yeah. So we'll go D- for now. Nick, what do you think? D-?
Yeah, I'm gonna give him a D. I'll just give him a D.
Okay. Linebackers I like. We'll try to start moving through this a little bit quicker. We're gonna try and knock out 8 teams. Might not get to it, but we will have like a week or two of wiggle room if I'm doing my math correctly before the first kickoff. And hey, if we need to do a little extra work behind the scenes to round these power rankings out, that's what we'll do. The linebacker group's good. Tremaine Edmonds, TJ Edwards, Jack Sanborn was good when he was needed last year after the Roquan Smith deal. And it's a pretty solid group. It's probably the best level of this defense. Mm-hmm. That said, in the Eberflus scheme, I think Tremaine Edmonds is going to be very crucial. They'll be able to get into their cover 2 stuff and have that as a really viable option with his length over the middle and his speed to trail tight ends up the seam and to catch up to that dig over the middle if they're trying to get over his head. That said, TJ Edwards is fine. I don't know if we should necessarily expect much growth from a Jack Sanborn. He might just be like a solid ball player, and he seems pretty heady, but I don't think the potential is huge. But this feels like a pretty comfortable, just like a B, a solid passing grade. I think we'll see much better groups as we get through the rest of this exercise. But I don't think there are a ton, and if they are as good on the field as they look on paper, it should be a pretty good unit. So I'm going to go just a straight up B.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm very high on
back up there real quick just to let everybody know exactly who they're rocking with. Yeah.
Oh, Micah Baskerville.
I was going to say I'm very high on Tremaine Edmonds. I like him a lot, but outside of him, it's pretty average. They have the potential to, like I said, to definitely be good. But Tremaine's actually proven as a linebacker. So he brings them up a little bit. I would probably put them, like a B-, B, around that range. Tremaine Edmonds himself, I'm putting at like a B+, A-, but the rest of them I would probably, B- or B.
Yeah, see, that's kind of where I disagree, just because, I'm a Bills fan. So, like, Tremaine Edmonds, like, we drafted him, we bred him, like, fed him, like, Virginia Tech. He, like, came in and, like, he was, like, 19, I think. Yeah, I was, like, really surprised because he was, like, not even 20. And I was like, holy shit, he's, like, 6'5" already? Cool. So I was really excited for him, and he was really good. But, like, the problem with Tremaine Edmonds is he can't stop the run at all. We had Matt Milano who would do all of that. Tremaine was not good at that. And, like, there would be a lot of times he was advertised to run sideline to sideline, but he's so tall that, like, I'd rather have a guy that's, like, 6'1", 6'2", that can, like, have speed. Yes, he has a lot of speed, and that but running sideline to sideline wasn't exactly what he flourished with. Like, and I can speak, bluntly just because I watched him for the last 4 years. He's a very, very strong player. Not saying he's strong like he's a good player. I'm saying he's strong. Like he's huge. Me and my dad saw him like up close. He's legit, but like he would kind of really like miss on a lot of run plays. He'd get the ball thrown over his head a lot. Like I remember like back in the day, we used to have middle linebackers before Edmonds that would kind of tip the ball a lot more than Edmonds ever did. And then like dudes like Poyer and Hyde can make those, interceptions. So it's kind of like an assist. Edmonds would rarely do that. So I'm kind of looking for a guy that can do that at the middle linebacker position just so you can get more turnovers, and generating turnovers is huge on defense. Obviously, that's your goal. So Edmonds didn't really do that too much. I'm excited to see what he can do in Chicago, but, everybody's kind of like a little bit overhyping him, making like him out to be like a top 5 linebacker all of a sudden just because he got a big bag. I think he was overpaid a little bit. Loved him in Buffalo, but I wasn't too upset to see him go. And kind of the rest of this group with, guys like TJ Edwards and Jack Sanborn, it's not looking too good. I'm going to kind of give it like more of a C+ than that, than you guys are giving it a B, just because I'm not as high as like one of my, favorite players. Honestly, it really was. But, looking back at it, he wasn't as good as people are making it out to be.
C+.
Yeah.
Okay. I can rock with that. I like this secondary as well. Nate, good to see you, brother. He's got the linebackers at an A-. I think that, if they all kind of gel, I think there's, we could be looking at this group at the end of the year and thinking something similar. If you missed the day, we've got B-, and C+ on the linebacker group. The secondary I really like. I do want to talk about Tyreek Stevenson out of Miami. One of the better. Yeah, that's right, Trev.
Zach, you're not the only bias, man. You're not the only one that's biased.
Yeah. One of the better man coverage corners coming out. Opposite him, you've got Jalen Johnson, who I love. Eddie Jackson, maybe a little gas in the tank yet. And Jaquan Brisker out of Penn State coming into his second year now, I think will be awesome. Kyler Gordon probably will be able to just be a full-time slot corner, the way the personnel is shaking out. And, exactly, Nate. I really, really think that could be one of the better duos on the boundary in the NFL by the end of this season. Johnson, I think, is criminally underrated to begin with. And I think Tyreek Stevenson sort of flew under the radar a little bit. With this cornerback class, slipped a little farther than I thought he would, or further, I should say. And exactly, Nate, I would not have minded Brisker. The Vikings took Lewis Cine out of Georgia in that same draft, and he's dealt with some injury issues. Brisker was solid right away. So, I'm gonna go B here as well. But if Tyreek Stevenson's the kind of player I think he could be, this could be really an A-type group, especially if Eddie Jackson still has some gas in the tank. Terrell Smith out of Minnesota, Sky Uma, big body corner that they took later in the draft, could be awesome as well. But I don't know. I like the group. I have an affinity for a couple of players in particular, but I think as a group as well, it's deep. They've got the top end talent, they've got the depth, and and Nate is happy to be rid of Buster Screen.
I understand that.
I understand that. I'm actually gonna go B+. Screw it. Dad. Hi, sweetie.
So I like their secondary a lot, just because they have, again, very recognizable names. I'm more, as you guys can tell by my commentary, I'm more of a guy that looks for like recognizable names when doing that. And like Kyler Gordon, who was the other guy that you said, like top guy?
Jalen Johnson. I'm sorry, I was reading Lee's comment.
Yeah, we got Jalen Johnson, Eddie Jackson, Kyler Gordon, Jaquan Brisker,
and Tyreek Stevenson.
Yeah, so I think they have the potential to be in the A's, but I'm gonna lock them in at like a B plus, like you said.
Cool. How you feeling, Nick?
Yeah, I really do like the secondaries, like what you were saying. Eddie Jackson is a very recognizable name. He's more of a household guy. He's been around, and ball hawk Eddie has just been around for a long time. Came out of Alabama, and yeah, he was fourth rounder 2017. And it's crazy that he's only been around since 2017 because he's been so strong and on all pro teams and Pro Bowl that we kind of take him for granted at this point. But yeah, Eddie Jackson, I love the guy. If he can pair with Jalen Johnson, which is what Niz is saying, that'd be awesome. Then we got Jaquan Brisker, and you guys are saying Tyreek Stevenson. I think he's kind of like the glue here because if he could be that type of missing piece that they've been looking for, that can be if he. So Ryan Poles has only traded up to get two guys, and he was. Or no, actually, I think he's the only one that Ryan Poles has traded up to get in his first two drafts as GM, and he was the first one. So I think that players really gravitate towards getting drafted up to when GMs draft up to take you, it really like makes them gravitate towards the team. And I feel like a guy like Tyreek Stevenson coming out of Miami, he's going to go to Chicago, be like, damn, it's cold here, kind of used to Miami. But they drafted up and they wanted to take me, so I'm going to have faith in them. So I really think that he'll become like a real good player for him. With Eddie Jackson, I'm already looking at like a B with the possibility of Stevenson being really good and then Jalen Johnson, helping Eddie Jackson out. I'm going to give it a B plus.
Solid. I'm right there with you. All right. So we'll put our Bears composite grades together. Let's try and lightning round the Lions and Packers a little bit. And then we'll see if we can get to the Vikes here yet today. Otherwise, we'll just knock those things out behind the scenes and review the grades next week. And we'll also drop those in our Discord on the public channels. I'll throw the Discord link in the comments as well as the description. But I think I've got one right. All right, well, I'll track it down as we're talking through this here. But so Lions quarterback, it is Jared Goff, and behind him is a man whose name escapes me. Nate Sudfeld.
Sudfeld, the former Eagle, right?
Yeah, and then obviously they drafted Hendon Hooker. But Sudfeld is the name I was trying to think of. Hooker probably not going to be back this year anyway. So we're mostly just looking at Jared Goff and Sudfeld. I like Goff. I think he's pretty good. I ended up going with a B- for the Bears quarterback room just because I love PJ Walker. I like Goff more than Fields. So I'm probably going to go B- here as well. What do you guys think?
I think after the season that Goff had last year, which was in no way what anyone expected to happen, I think that definitely brings him up. I definitely like him more than Fields, but like you said, I like the Bears backups more than I like the Lions backup. So because of that, I'm going to even it out and go B-.
Nick?
Yeah, I mean, when we're talking Detroit, they had such an amazing upcoming, and then beating Aaron Rodgers and the Big Daddy Packers in that last game of the season in Lambeau, not allowing the Packers to go to the playoffs. I thought that was kind of like that jolt they needed. Yes, Detroit's not going to the playoffs, but we're going to make it next year. For the quarterback room, I love Jared Goff. He was, kind of labeled as a system quarterback when he was in LA, but he's beaten that. I love Goff. Sudfeld will not be the two guy. It'll probably be Hendon Hooker, who I have a lot of hopes for him as well in his career. So I'm definitely going to go with a B for Detroit's quarterback room.
Yeah, Goff beat the mid allegations.
He did he beat him for sure.
Yeah, and then David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, I think that's a pretty good group.
I like it as well.
And then another gopher, Mo Ibrahim, who don't be surprised if he gets some touches. He was one of the more prolific college running backs. Kind of had a Jonathan Taylor deal where, and granted, Taylor didn't fall too far, but he had such a high workload in college that even though he didn't really get injured in college, that I feel like that was a negative to his draft stock. But he might sneak in there, so watch out for that. But I'm going to go B+ for the running back group, actually. I'm very high on Jahmyr Gibbs. And Montgomery's just solid. He's a above average NFL running back. So I like B+ here.
Yeah, I feel like with Gibbs and Montgomery, we're going to kind of see like what happened with the Cowboys with Zeke and Pollard. Like you have two very solid running backs that you can split touches with. So I feel like that's going to work in their favor. I'm not sure. Is one of them a receiving back or no?
Yeah, Gibbs will line up outside even and run some routes. Like from a wide alignment. It sounds like he's not really going to come off the field, even when Montgomery's in the backfield. Sounds like Gibbs is going to be out there in some form or another.
Yeah, so I like that a lot. Like you said, Montgomery's above average for an NFL running back. I feel like Jahmyr Gibbs has definitely a lot of potential, so I'm going to put them probably around a B.
Alrighty, Nick.
So I'm actually loving them here with their running back room. They made that decision to get Gibbs, and a lot of people were like, "What? Like, they already have Montgomery. Like, what are they doing?" And they also got rid of Jamal Williams, so that was kind of a weird move. But I do think that it'll work at the end. Montgomery, I think that Gibbs actually becomes the running back one. Maybe not this year, but maybe the year after that, like next season. But Montgomery's just a workhorse. He was in Chicago. We just talked about. Comes to the Lions. Much nicer environment just because they get to play inside. I think that's better for running backs anyway. In some cases. But, I really like it. I'm actually going to A- right here. Goff. And I don't know. It has a lot to do with Goff as well, just because of how much he's going to be able to use play action and hit his receivers. But I think that overall it'll become an A-. And I think that's what it is.
Yep, I'm mostly with you there. If their pass catchers could follow the rules, this might be a pretty decent group.
That would be nice.
But I'm lower on this group than probably a lot of people will be. I don't think it's as deep as it was last year. I don't think that Jameson Williams is going to necessarily be all that. I don't think I don't know that we'll ever see him fully realized. I like bringing Marvin Jones back, but how much he's in the tank is questionable. Josh Reynolds, whatever. I love Amon-Ra, and I do like Antoine Green out of North Carolina. Played there with Josh Downs, and similar to Roshan Johnson, was just kind of the second fiddle a little bit. But a very, very solid receiver. I wouldn't be surprised to see him get a lot of snaps this season. But I think it's pretty middling right now. I'm between a B- and a C+ on this group.
Yeah, I'm high on Amon-Ra. Just like with DJ Moore, I think he's a pretty clear-cut wide receiver one. But after that, you get a pretty big fall-off in the skill between him and the other receivers in the wide receiver room. So because of that, I'm going to go C+.
C+. For some reason on the depth chart, I'm like not seeing Jameson Williams. I don't know why that is, but
Yeah.
He's there. Yes, Lee. Facts.
Yeah.
I actually really like him. You know, with Marvin Jones, man, he's a stud. And wait, do they have Marvin Jones? Is that correct? I thought he was a Jack.
No, yeah, he came
He
back.
signed with the Lions.
It was a 2-year deal with Jacksonville, and yeah, I think he's
Wow.
back.
Yeah, no, he is. Wow. Okay, so him being back, I mean, he was a Lion earlier in his career with Amon-Ra, who has the. I mean, he. Are we not counting Amon-Ra St. Brown as a star? Because I think he kind of is.
I mean, I am personally.
Yeah, right. I would say he's a star, and then we got Marvin, and we got Jameson Williams. No, this is like a B plus for me.
Okay.
This is a B plus for me. I love it.
With you, the tight ends are also really thin for me.
That's true. Yeah.
Especially if
Brock Wright.
Florida doesn't pop. But this offensive line, man, A- probably is the floor. I think that's where I'm going to go because that left side is a little questionable, just a little bit. Taylor Decker's been fine. Jonah Jackson's fine. Ragnow is a beast. Penne is a beast.
Yeah.
Vaitai is, he should be all right as a fifth starter, but yeah, I think I'm gonna go A-. It's one of the best units in the league for sure, probably top 4 or 5. Still coming into this year, so yeah, A- is probably as low as I'm willing to go.
This is a really star-studded O-line. Zach, go ahead.
Yeah, I was thinking probably A, because last year, if Goff doesn't have the protection that he did, they're not really doing a whole lot, and they did their job very well.
Dude, Graham Glasgow? Jeez.
I know that DeAndre Swift didn't have like the best year. I would know because I had him on fantasy. But that was more of like a skill issue for him rather than what the O-line did.
Yeah.
But I would, I think that they have the potential to be an A++. But yeah, I'm locking them in at an A because what they did for pass blocking for Goff, run blocking for I'm having a mental slip. Who was their running back that popped off last year?
Jamal
It was
Williams.
Williams, right? Jamal Williams.
Jamal Williams. He had a fantastic year. So it's like they did their job very well. So yeah, I'm gonna go A.
Yeah. What do you think, Nick?
I love that. Yeah. Listen, like it's a Jesus Christ, this is a star-studded. I'm gonna go A as well. I mean, as you said, Vital, like he has the potential to be really, really good, and they already have Penne, Frank Ragnow, Jonah Jay. Oh gosh, yeah, it's an A. This is one of the best offensive lines in the league, and it's gonna show. When they win 10, 11 games, O-line's gonna be credited highly.
Highly. So, I mean, the interior of this defensive line is like a little bit interesting. I really like Lee McNeil coming out. Maybe he can return to form a little bit here as that true nose tackle. Is John Kaminsky, I think, from Atlanta. Isaiah Buggs is in that mix. Levi Onwuzurike is still in that mix. Right?
He's right there.
Yeah, he's in there. So,
Some of the names John, is just unbelievable to me.
some of the
Third stringer.
some are a little random. He was drafted kind of high. That's the only reason I know him.
He's also in your division, so fair enough.
Yeah, but there's a little potential there for sure. I like Bugs. I do. But this team got shredded on the ground. We talked about Deontay Foreman a little bit. They're going to play him twice a year now. He tore them to shreds when they played Carolina. I think it was 200 something yards on the ground at least. They might have touched 3. They just got gashed, and they didn't really do anything to shore that up outside of like the Jack Campbell selection. So I mean, I'm pretty low on this group. It's not as bad as Chicago's, but it is probably a D plus on the interior of this defensive line anyway. The edge group's a different story for sure, but on the interior, I'm going D plus.
Yeah, on the interior, I'm right there with you. Again, no names that stand out, and also, like you said, they got killed on the ground. So, yeah, that's about as high as I can go for them. But for the edge, I'm very high on Aiden Hutchinson. I think that he's fantastic. So on the edge rushing side, I'm probably gonna go closer to like a B plus.
Mm-hmm. Charles Harris was good last year. James Houston had 8 sacks last year as a rookie. The Okwara brothers are still there. It's a really interesting group. Josh Pascal out of Kentucky was pretty highly touted. He could be really good.
Mm-hmm.
This edge group could be really good, like really, really, really good. Just for the depth, though, I'm at least going to give it a B. I think I'm going to go B. And if we get another season like that from Charles Harris, if James Houston is able to keep up what he did in his rookie campaign, and in Okwara or another has a decent year, like this is a really, really good group all of a sudden.
Yeah. And I'm like right with you there. Like, I mean, obviously we're talking Aiden Hutchinson. We don't have to talk. Like, we have a star on our hands, right? And you got like Anzalone coming over from New Orleans, like a couple of years ago, and he's been really good, right? Bugs, as you said, he's going to be pretty cool. Is he a rookie or is he a second year?
He's a little older than that, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the Jack Campbell pick. He was a Bills prospect. I mean, he was on my board.
I had him penciled in just.
Yeah, so I mean, I thought he was Buffalo made. He goes there. I was like, okay. I mean, he's also I love the Dan Campbell, Jack Campbell. I mean, Campbell Soup. Eric Campbell, Mets legend. I don't know, but yeah, like I love Jack Campbell. He's gonna be really good. James Houston, as you said, and Okwara, and you got Harris and Pascal and Romeo Okwara. I love it. Wouldn't Romeo Okwara was a giant, right? That's right. So I mean, these guys are gonna build a pretty good defense here. And it all starts with Aiden there. Obviously, he was such a beast in his rookie season last year. He's gonna be like TJ Watt type, like Pro Bowl every year. Like you just gotta wait for it. It'll be every year. So I'm very excited for that. Detroit definitely got the better player out of him and Trayvon Walker, and the Jags got kind of in my opinion, he's a little bit of a bust. And yeah, I'm gonna give this group for the Lions. I'm gonna give it a B plus right now, and it completely has the ability to go up to an A this year.
Okay, and that's the edge group, correct?
Yeah.
So what we Keebs and I both had D plus on the interior. Is that what you said, or did I miss that?
On the interior with McNeil and Bugs, like I'm gonna go like C minus. But for the like when we're talking like edge rushers with like Hutchinson, Anzalone, and Campbell, like I love that. I like B plus for that.
B plus. And Keebs, what's an edge group rating? Grade for you here before we move to the linebackers.
Oh yeah, edge. I said like B plus with the potential to go into the A's.
Gotcha. Yeah, linebackers are kind of interesting.
The defense is porous, so they play games in the 30s. Well, yeah, but that's what happened last year, like all the time. That's what. Oh, Justin Herbert's here. Let's go.
Yeah, no way. We got the Chargers quarterback.
I'm glad that Justin Herbert's like an actual Charger fan, because that'd be weird if he wasn't. That's good. You got Herbert in the building, baby. He's here.
Justin Herbert, how do you know about Blake Lynch? Are you like a Baylor fan or something? Or no, I'm thinking of James Lynch. How do you know about Blake Lynch, dude? Have you been watching Vikings third team reps the last few years, or where are you getting Blake Lynch from? Good pull. Oh yeah, dude, you guys are in for it. He will be franchise altering. I actually liked Blake Lynch when the Vikes had him. I thought he was pretty solid. But for linebackers, I'm right at like a C here, to be honest. Malcolm Rodriguez is fine. Manzaloni's fine. Campbell could be really good. He could be really good. And I think he'll be decent day one. C+. C+, final answer for me. What do you think, Keebs?
I'm going C. Again, has potential to go up, but no names that really stick out. Like you said, Campbell could be good. We have to see, obviously. No pun intended with my grade, but
I feel like nobody sticks out.
Yeah, I'd probably go C, but I mean, we'll see what happens.
Justin Herbert, stop taking my players, dude. Nick, what do you got for linebackers?
With Campbell, as I kind of just mentioned, like I really like that pick. So for that group, I'll probably end here right now with a B- just because he's a rookie. But definitely potential. A lot of upside with Jack as well. So I think it could become a BB plus. But right now, I'm gonna stick with B-.
Yeah, and secondary, I mean, they've got a lot of bodies in the secondary. A lot of solid players, from Cam Sutton to Emmanuel Mosley to C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who went down with an injury, actually.
He did.
Tracy Walker will be back. But, I don't know if I'm quite sold yet. I'm going to say B-, just because I think it's a lot of solid veteran talent. But no true ones at the cornerback position, and no real game changers at safety, at least as of right now. But it's just a really solid group all around. I'm going to go B-.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
This is for the secondary, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm very high on C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I think the Eagles were kind of dumb to let him go, especially for the defense that they built over there. But that's a topic for another time. Yeah, no, I think he brings that up a little bit. Rest of the names I'm not, again, as familiar with, but I know that they're going to mesh well. So, yeah, I would probably go B- there also.
Yeah, and I like Kirby Joseph. I just don't know how much I'm going to root for him this year if he's not intercepting Aaron Rodgers. B- for Keebs, right? B-?
Yeah.
All right, what do you got, Nick? And then we'll jump to the Packers quick.
Yeah. We're gonna talk about them. Like, obviously, we got.
And then we'll do the Packers off screen. Packers suck, dude. We got no Packers fans. Let's do the Vikings next. Go ahead.
Yeah, they stink. So we're looking at Mosley drafted. I love him, right? Kirby Joseph, Tracy Walker III, Cam Sutton, and obviously C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Keith, as you said, like it was dumb. Yeah. Keith, as you said, it was dumb for them to let him go. But like we had an Eagles fan that John, remember when we had that Eagles fan that came in here and he was like talking shit to me about like I was saying like, oh, you shouldn't have let CJ go, and he was like, number one, why we should have, number two, why I was like, oh, okay, I'm so sorry, I didn't know. Like he like talked my ear off about why giving up CJ was a great idea. So I was like, okay. So if an Eagles fan's gonna say that,
Quell was saying that when he was down, that there wasn't much of a drop off essentially, and he just kind of gambles a lot. He's kind of risk reward, He's like the Trey Diggs of big nickel safeties.
Yeah, but Trey Diggs is like a top 100 player every year, so I mean,
I don't know if you guys can hear my dad right now, but he's going crazy because the Mets are tied with the Royals right now.
Oh, did we tie the game?
Yeah, 3-3 on a walk home.
The Royals suck, dude.
The Royals are like, I'm trying to think of like, they're like the Texans of the MLB, and we're tied with them right now. So
we're tied, baby.
The Twins are leading the AL Central right now by like half a game, but in the
you
AL,
guys are like, you're not even over 500. You're like barely over.
We're a game over 500. In the AL as a whole, it's the 11th best. There would be 6th in the AL East.
Yeah, the AL Central should not get a playoff team. I swear to God.
No, dude. dude. It should not.
Yeah, there's another
I don't-
team that deserves it way more.
I don't want us to make it because we're just gonna not win a playoff game for a longer amount of we're gonna have more opportunities to win a playoff game without winning one, and we're just gonna keep setting records for being so shitty.
Yeah, when we're talking about like the AL East, isn't like okay, so obviously the Rays and Baltimore won too, but like,
Every
the Blue
team
Jays
in
are
the
really
AL
good.
East is above 500.
Yeah, like the Yankees, like sorry Yankee fans, but you guys are kind of bad this year, and you guys know that. But we got the Blue Jays and the Red Sox who are very good, and like one of them ain't gonna make it. That's crazy.
Yeah, dude.
Um,
Also, Framber Valdez just threw a no-hitter. Don't know if you guys saw that.
You
but
completed it. You completed
Yeah.
it. I saw you throwing one. Wow.
sorry to get off topic,
Verlander's like, that's my boy.
Yeah, Trev knows how bad the Royals are. All right, let's go. Let's skull. Or wait, did you give us a grade? I don't know.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm gonna go with a B+ for that secondary in Detroit.
B+ for Nick in Detroit.
Yes, sir.
Now for the talk of the town. Oh, for the talk of the town, my town anyway. The Minnesota Vikings. If we don't get to the Packers, we don't get to the Packers. Nobody's interested in that content anyway.
No.
We'll talk a little purple and gold, and we're going to start with quarterback. I had a B- for Goff and the boys. Now, Kirk Cousins has one of the better backups in the league, actually, in Nick Mullins. I don't even remember his stint in San Francisco, but he was pretty solid when you starting. So I feel pretty good about the number 2. Also a great clipboard caddy, a good locker room guy, understands the offense. And Kirk is really solid. So I'm going to go B flat.
That's exactly where I was going with that. As much as I rip on
Kirk, I think that he is definitely a very solid quarterback. I'm not as familiar with the backup, like you said. But yeah, no, Kirk as a quarterback is definitely, in my opinion, top 16. But I think he deserves more credit than he gets, especially on my end. I just like being a hater. But yeah, no, I was gonna go exactly with B because I think that he's better than Goff, he's better than Fields, but the backup is also better than those two. But yeah, solid B.
Yeah, and I mean, I thought about going B+, but I don't think the gap is very wide between Kirk and Goff. I do think Kirk's a little bit better in a vacuum, but I think we have the slight edge at the starter, and the slight edge with the backup. Though PJ Walker's the best backup in the division. Come on, give me those all day. Nick, what do you got for QB?
By the way, the Mets have just gone up on the Royals, baby. Let's go. Top 8. Yes, sir. Keith's dad is going crazy.
Yeah, he was like, we're gonna make a run. We're gonna get a wild card spot.
We're making a run. No, I would love that. It'd be so funny. Hey guys, you traded everybody. We're in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna go with a B as well for Kirko Chains. I think that's where he lies. Maybe in prime time he's like an A+, but yeah, when he's not 1:00 games, maybe not. Wait, or is it the opposite? Is it these amazing?
Oh, you got that backwards, dude. He's the
Oh yeah. Okay, so 1:00 games A+, nighttime games he's like a C-.
Yeah, anything
So we're gonna
4:00 and beyond, he turns into like Josh Rosen. But
Oh,
at
yeah,
1:00 he's like Tom Brady.
Okay, so I kind of confused. Sorry, it's not my conference.
Yeah.
I forget something. It's
I'm pretty sure he's like solar powered.
Yes, yeah. He has like the opposite of what like the primetime guys have. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we're going like C- at like primetime and then A+, so we gotta like compromise with a B for normal times. So we got a B for Kirk.
Sounds good. Now the running back room.
Yeah.
You guys might not be particularly familiar.
Took a big
But-
fall off.
The grade for this group is probably going to be higher than you guys. For me, It's probably going to be higher than you guys think it would. And I'm going to add a little bit of context to it really quick. So Alexander Madison averages 115 yards per start. Whenever he's filled in for Dalvin Cook as a starter and gotten the majority of the carries in the game throughout his 3-year career to this point, 115 yards a game when Alexander Madison's your starting back. Now,
how many games though, for context?
Like 7, I
Okay.
want to say that he's started over the course of a few years. And he's been really solid when just getting spot touches. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. I think he's going to be great. Ty Chandler out of North Carolina, highest broken tackle rate preseason 2022. Take that for what you will. Dwayne McBride, 3,400 yards over the last 2 seasons at UAB. I know it's UAB, but this guy's got some serious chops, crazy contact balance. But I think Madison is going to be really, really solid. I think he'll be in the echelon of a David Montgomery once given the starting opportunity. And I think, honestly, for this group, it's worse than the other 2 groups that we've talked about in the division so far, but I'm going to go B-. And I think a lot of people will be surprised by some folks in that group. This is one of the sneaky groups I'm kind of high on with the Vikes, actually, just because I have so much faith in Madison. I did a ton of scouting on Dwayne McBride. I was able to get my hands on some UAB All-22. So that was fun, and Ty Chandler is an interesting guy as well. I've spoken with Alexander Madison's dad on a couple occasions, and he sort of feels the same way. The vibe in the running back room is that he'll kind of be getting those bell cow touches, and every time he has to this point, it's been really good results. So I'm gonna go B-. Hebler, how are you feeling about that group? Oh, we lost Nick.
I was gonna say,
Nick, we got 2 of you.
Yeah, there we go. I was gonna say, just because of the small sample size of Madison, I think he still has a little more to prove as a starter. But like you said, if he can continue that success of averaging 115 yards a start, you said,
115, yeah.
Yeah, if he can do that, like, he's probably a top 5 running back in the league. But we haven't seen that because he's been shadowed by in the shadows of Dalvin Cook. But now that he gets to show what he's capable of, I think that he'll be good. The 2 other guys I'm not really as familiar with. So just for that reason, I'm going to go C+. But if Madison can be like a Dalvin Cook kind of guy, then probably up towards a B.
Yeah, Lee remembers. Pepperidge Farm remembers. All right, go ahead, Nick.
Sorry about that, by the way. I was like trying to share my screen, the entire thing just broke.
Yeah.
I was trying to show a highlight of Alexander Madison, and my computer was like, "Nope, you're not going to do that today."
You cannot push.
No, you can't do that. Also, we're removing you from the stream entirely. Oh, okay, sorry, my fault. My computer doesn't like him. But yeah, no, John, I heard that you did like that podcast with his, or with your show with his dad, which is awesome. Like, talking to an NFL player, especially your favorite team's dad, is pretty damn cool.
He's a cool dude.
Yeah, so I mean, losing Dalvin, I'm surprised he hasn't signed with the Jets yet, by the way, because he said he was going to do it over the weekend.
He's going to the AFC East. That's all we know.
He's either a Jet or a Patriot.
We've got reports from all 4 AFC East teams.
Yeah, I don't know why, by the way. I mean, I guarantee like he'll be a Jet, but like he said, like high probability I'll be there over the weekend. Well, it's Tuesday, bro. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Why didn't you go in there and sign the contract? Like, why not? What happened?
He's probably just weighing like the money issue.
Yeah. I mean, I
because I don't think the Bills really have
fixed.
enough to sign him, depending on what he's looking for.
Yeah, or they're at an impasse in that negotiation.
Yeah.
Or the Jets will never get back to him ever again. That's possible. That's what most employers do.
I don't even know why the Patriots would want him though. Like they have Ramondre, who can easily be a running back 1. So it's like
He is the running back 1, yeah.
Yeah. Like I'm saying, he has the
If
potential.
they got Dalvin, that would kind of ruin Stevenson's like career path. I don't know why they would do that.
Exactly.
Yeah. But so as you said with Madison, like every time you're saying, like every single time that he starts over Dalvin, he gets a very good game out of him, right? You get so I'm thinking that this is more like a B minus. With Dalvin, you're looking at like maybe a B plus, A minus, but it is pretty big, difference and drop off without, their Pro Bowl running back. We'll see what happens with Madison. I'm not a biased Viking fan, so I'm not going to say that it's like a B plus, but I will say B minus. I'm sure a lot of other people would actually have like a little lower than that. So
yeah, I feel like too.
Yeah, I'll go with a B minus to start.
Sweet. Pass catchers. I'm gonna go A.
Yeah.
Best receiver in the league, top 5 tight end. If Jordan Addison lives up to his billing in any sense of the phrase, it's gonna be a really, really dangerous group. KJ Osborne is really underrated. A guy like Jalen Naylor out of Michigan State actually made some big plays when we were resting starters in week 18 last season. So if he gets some opportunity, he might be solid. Also brought over Josh Oliver from Baltimore, one of the better blocking tight ends since he entered the NFL, but was a great pass catcher at San Jose State. And I think that duo will be able to go to more 12 personnel with those two guys. We'll also be able to open it up with 11 or even 10 or 1 personnel with those, that depth at receiver and maybe being able to split Hawkinson out wide. I think it's just one of the better collections of talent at pass catcher in the league. I think we'll see some A pluses, maybe 1 or 2 once we get through all 32 teams.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of setting this up to maybe be superseded by a better group, but this is a very, very, very good group. So I'm gonna go A.
Yeah, I think just with Jefferson and Hawkinson alone, that brings you to an A. I've seen firsthand how Hawkinson can tear apart an offense if Jefferson's not clicking.
Yep.
So I'm very high on him. Just seeing what he's able to do, especially in a playoff game. I think that was his
He was
first
making big boy catches that game.
That was his first one, right? His first playoff game?
Yeah, man. He's from Detroit.
Yeah, so
that
was crazy to see. And then obviously, Jay Jetto's in a fantasy aspect, he should go round 1, pick 1, because he's going on to a contract year. And I think he's just going to ball out, especially with Kirk at quarterback still.
Yeah.
I know you guys lost Thielen to the Panthers.
Mm-hmm.
So I forget. Who are your 2 other wide receivers?
Jordan Addison and then KJ Osborne. And for what it's worth, too, Thielen was still a good possession receiver, but he had no juice last year. He averaged 2.1 yards after the catch.
That's crazy.
Like, I mean, he was
also
literally
catch it and just go down.
Yeah, he was running 7 routes to the at the sticks and just getting a first down quick. Like
that's what Beasley used to do.
So for that, I'm gonna stick it at an A because I think a team like the Bengals can surpass it.
That's what I was thinking. Like, I feel like we'll get to a couple teams that are better, so I don't want to go A plus, but I think it's very good.
Yeah, I think it's an A.
What do you got, Nick?
I don't know if you can see that, but enough said. I hate it, but it does. It is the reason that I'm going with an A for this group.
He's got such sick. We got to get a good JJ game against the Giants. I mean, he had a decent one the first time he played, but we got to get like some historical highlight against him because I can pull up JJ running that double return against Stephon Gilmore if I want to get at Kev.
Yeah. You have that against me. Now we gotta.
Yep. There's a lot of things I can show Michael that he wouldn't like to see.
But yeah, we're going A. I love Osborne. I really do. So, and then you got the Rook as well. So,
come here,
Jefferson. It's crazy how he became the number 1 receiver so fast. It really is. but that's
you guys took Jordan Addison, I think, right before we were able to, right? Because that was one of the names I was looking at on my draft board with Zay Flowers there too.
Yep.
So yeah, I was pretty bummed when you guys took him from like right under our nose, right before we got a wide receiver pick. But
yeah, it's like they were messing with them.
yeah,
But yeah,
it was like the draft was like
Nope.
no one takes a wide receiver. No one takes it until like I think the Giants had the 23rd or 24th pick. No one starts taking.
No, we got a new member of the stream. Let's go. What's up?
She's just talking a little ball.
I was like, we're getting Jordan Addison or Zay Flowers, and then all of a sudden, Ravens, nope. Vikings, nope. Just everyone just starts taking, or Seahawks took Jackson Smith. So
yeah. Well, props to that front office though for waiting on Hyatt and getting him in the third round. That was I was worried. I was worried for whoever might try and take him round one. Hi, sweetheart.
So yeah, but like it's just like it's just three dudes that you really want anybody to have, and then you got TJ Atkinson.
Yes. How many players' names that end in son are on the Vikings? A lot. Let's go with O-line here. So one of the better tackle duos in the league, first and foremost. Christian Darrisaw is an absolute animal. Brian O'Neill, one of the more unsung tackles in the league. When Orlando Brown was looking for his big money extension, he was looking to blow Brian O'Neill's cap number out of the water, and Orlando Brown had allowed 6 sacks that season, and to that point, Brian O'Neill had allowed 6 sacks in his 4-year career as a starter. He's been really, really good. Garrett Bradbury's been really hot and cold. And Ed Ingram in his rookie year was rough for the front half. We expect a little bit better this year. But this is the same starting 5 as last year for the first time in a long time. So that continuity in and of itself should help a little bit. Brought Dalton Reisner in for a visit today, actually. So there's a chance we get a little bit more competition at guard, which I would be all for. But for now, I'm kind of right at a B. I think it's a similar thing to, it's like one of those where this tackle duo is probably in the A area, and the interior is probably in the C minus area. So I'm just going to go with a B here.
Yeah. I'm basically just thinking about like
the playoff game
because I never really watched the Vikings outside of the wild card game.
If it helps, sometimes all I can think about is Dexter Lawrence just putting Bradbury in Kirk's lap.
Yeah. So just basing it off of like the most important game when everyone's trying their hardest, I would put them probably
Ryan
around.
O'Neal was out for that game. Oli Udoh was starting at right tackle.
Okay.
So that's but it was bad on the inside. It was very bad.
Yeah, I would probably put it around like a B minus. Because again, it wasn't terrible. Like we weren't getting to Kirk that often, but just seeing how Dexter Lawrence could just throw dudes.
Oh my god!
But that's also a lot to do with Dexter Lawrence being able to throw any guy.
Yeah. Exactly. Because he's like one of the best D linemen in the league. So
he has more pressures from the 0 and 1 technique spot than any other player over the last 2 seasons.
Yeah.
So I would go. You're much more knowledgeable on the Vikings than I am, so I would probably agree with you on B.
Well, I'll take that B minus because I tell you, CBS Sports had this O-line like overall like 9th in the league for like a projecting, and that's really just not the case. Like the tackle duo is great, but I don't think you can weigh that too heavily when the fastest way to get to the quarterback is a straight line through the interior. Okay, sweetheart. And it's just very weak up front. They're small. Ezra Cleveland's a tackle convert out of Boise State. Ed Ingram's a little bit more powerful, but Bradbury just gets shoved around. These guys can't anchor. It's not a great group. It's a fine group. And we'll see how the continuity helps, but I'm not super high on it.
And you guys have Jackie Chen.
Jackie Chen, exactly. We got Ali Allen. Or no,
Alan
Ali.
Oh, yeah.
We've got Mankato State legend Chris Reed.
Yeah, that's why his name is all in caps, because he's a legend. So yeah, I'm gonna go with like a B- for this group. Darrisaw, obviously, the X factor here. He's the guy that sticks out. He's the dude that everyone's looking at. But getting O'Neal back, obviously not having him for that Giants wildcard game was tough. And he got pushed around into the backup. So yeah, I'm gonna go with a B-, but it could definitely get better as the season goes along for sure.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Defensive interior is like a step above the Bears and Lions that we just talked about. I mean, it's Chris Tonga, Harrison Phillips, Seizi Atomowo, longest arm in the 2022 group draft class. We'll take that. He's got like 36-inch arms out of Minnesota. That's always cool. Dean Lowry coming over from Green Bay, 9.6% pressure rate last year, over 10% the year prior on the interior, and he'll probably play that 5 tech. And I think he'll be fine. But I went D+ for both the Bears and the Lions on the interior. I'm probably going to go C for this one. Nick, you know about Harrison Phillips. He's kind of the guy buoying that unit for me. He's a really good run stopper, really underrated in that regard. And I think we could see a step forward from Chris Tonga at nose. And Dean Lowry should be able to put some pressure on the quarterback. Jaquelin Roy out of LSU, there's a shot. John Bullard's fine. There's James Lynch out of Baylor, who I thought Justin Herbert was talking about at first, but we'll see how it goes. It's not a great group, but I'm probably right at a C with it.
Yeah. Go ahead, Zach.
You're talking D-line, right? Just making sure.
Yeah.
My mom walked in, so I got a little distracted.
Good.
Yeah. I'm right there with you at C. Again, we had one of the more talented running backs in the league, so it made it easier to get through an O-line. But I was
basing it all in one game.
Well, yeah, because I don't really watch the Vikings, so I'm like thinking of it from like
we played twice though, and it was kind of the same result.
The first time was a crazier game.
I feel like the Vikings D-line is bad against top guys, but good against like average, maybe a little above average guys, kind of thing. Because they didn't do bad at all. Again, it's hard when you're going against a top 1 running back in the league, but I'm just saying like, nah, he's top 1, bro. But aside from that,
why didn't he win the rushing title?
Anyways, I'm putting them.
Oh shit, Keebs, top 1. You heard him.
Yeah, he didn't win the rushing title because he didn't have like a 300-yard rushing game. But yeah, no, I'm putting the D-line, the interior at like a C, and then I just have to relook at who your guys' rushing is.
Danielle Hunter just re-signed, or it was basically just a pay raise for this season, but he was holding in prior to that. DJ Wanham had an 8.5 sack year in 2021. Marcus Davenport coming over from the Saints. He was top 15 in pressure rate, despite only having a half sack last year. More of a bull rush type, not necessarily finishing plays, but funneling things. And Patrick Jones II has been fine. it's not a robust group. Obviously, losing Zadarius Smith, replacing him with Marcus Davenport, and having the same young guys behind the group. But Daniil Hunter, for his second consecutive healthy season, he was top 10 in pressures last year, and still really at the top of his game. This is somewhere I'm probably in the B- area. I think Daniil really raises the floor of the group, and Davenport's a fine edge too. The ancillary guys are, pretty average.
Yeah. So for me, I've loved Daniil Hunter ever since he got in the league. He's been a really good player. Harrison Phillips, former Bill, was so good for the community. Never like a.
He is great.
He's like a 75 on Madden. Like he's all right, but he's not bad, but he's not great at all. But he'll he'll do some things for you, and that's kind of all you need if you have some guys around him. Losing, as Johnny just said, losing Zadarius and getting Marcus Davenport, that's a downgrade, but Davenport's still a solid player, so like it's not terrible. The interior D line with just Tonga and Phillips, I'm gonna give it a C. It's just a C. It's a 75. And then around that with Lowry and Hunter. I mean, Hunter's a star, so I'm gonna go with like a solid B. So C for the interior, and then B for the outside.
Cool.
Yeah, no, I agree with that for sure.
Sure.
Perfect. Linebackers, interesting.
For sure.
Ivan Pace, out of Cincinnati, undrafted, actually had the highest pressure rate of any off-ball linebacker in all of college football last year. Over the course of his collegiate career, he had the most sacks among off-ball linebackers, but he's like 5'11", 230. He's kind of interesting. I think Flores will blitz him a lot. Might be kind of fun. Brian Asamoah is a bullet out of Oklahoma. Jordan Hicks is Jordan Hicks. You guys know him. He's fine. And whether it's Troy Dye or Troy Reeder who makes the team, I don't know how much difference it'll make. Troy Dye is probably more of a special teams guy. Troy Reeder has had 90 tackles at the NFL level. So if they keep him, he's probably getting some defensive snaps. That's really the only difference between those two guys. But I don't know. I mean, I'm probably C-, maybe even D+ on this group. I'm really high on Asamoah's potential, but it's not a good group. I'm probably D+ here.
Yeah, I was gonna go probably around C- because I've heard of Jordan Hicks. But
he's good. I like Jordan Hicks. Yeah,
I've heard of Jordan Hicks, but outside of that, I haven't really seen anything of anyone else on that team or on that group. Asamoah, I've heard of also, I believe, but nothing special. They have the potential to be decent, but yeah, like he said, I'm probably going like C- ish.
Yeah, no, I don't even know if they have potential for that. I mean, if a Vikings fan is telling us that they're a D+,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's like me saying like the Bills secondary sucks. Like I think I'm gonna go with a D+ as well, just because Jordan Hicks, he's also kind of past his prime if he had one.
Yeah,
So,
31. 31.
Yeah, I'm gonna go D+. I don't think they have much potential here. Not gonna be a strong suit here of Minnesota, but that's not to say they're not a good team.
Yeah, I just really worry about all these linebackers in coverage. Hicks is a good run stopper. Asamoah is a good, he's kind of like a knife. He kind of knifes through the line. He's not really going to blow up a block, but he'll, slither in there. Pace is great when blitzing on passing downs, not great when covering on passing downs. So that's a big concern for me is covering tight ends and running backs. For the secondary, one of the most underrated signings I think across the league in free agency this year is Byron Murphy to the Vikes on 2 years, and what ended up being the 17.5 mil base over those 2 years. His cap hit this season is under $6 million. and he's a guy who can play inside, outside. He shadowed Cooper Kupp. He shadowed DK Metcalf in that division coming from the Cardinals. And he's really going to be our certified cornerback one. So I like where we're at there. He's probably, as far as number one corners on any given team, I don't know. He's probably 20th best number one corner in the league. But I think he'll be pretty good. Caleb Evans is interesting. He'll probably play on the right side boundary. Mekhi Blackman out of USC. Mixed results. Andrew Booth can't stay healthy. Kalen Barnes is fast but sucks. Joejuan Williams is tall but sucks. Jay Ward out of LSU is a thumper. He could be really interesting. He plays some slot. Lewis Seen is good but always hurt. I mean, it's not great. Harrison Smith is sick, obviously. But I mean, the highest I could really comfortably go here is like a C+. And I might feel more like a C right now. So I think that's what I'm going to go with, is just a C here.
Yeah, I was going to say Harrison Smith is really like the only bright spot in there.
I like Booth, but as he said, he can't stay healthy.
Can't stay healthy. Just got injured again today. He's got a little case of the rabies.
And your best ability is your availability. So if you can't play, then sucks. But
exactly.
So Harrison Smith, like the only bright spot there. Him himself, he's high, but outside of that, I was going probably C-.
Yeah, I mean, as we're gonna say, like Harrison Smith, let's say he's an A-. Okay, then you got
a ton of Fs, and then D- and D that drags it down.
If we have an A- and then a bunch of Fs, then I'm gonna have to get like overall, it's like we're saying, man. I think we all agree. We're not crazy to say C-, C, right? We're not crazy. I'll say C- for this one. But like nobody ever said the Vikings, linebackers and secondary was their strong suit. Nobody ever said that. We're saying that the offense has, one of the best receiving cores. T.J. Hawkinson, Kirk O'Chains, Alexander. Like we're looking at the offense, man. Like when we're looking at Minnesota games, that's what we're looking for. We're not watching games to watch damn Brian Asamoah II and Mekhi Blackman and Cameron Bynum and
we're not watching Theo Jackson and Tay Gawan.
We're not looking for those guys. This team's gonna win. This team's gonna win.
Gowan slander might be where I draw the line, dude. I'm drafted out of UCF. I followed him on Twitter when he was still at UCF. So I see all his little hype posts. But he's
all right. Yeah. So we'll draw a line on that. But this team's gonna win like 10 to 12 games because of the other side of the ball, not this side of the ball. But we love Harrison Smith, getting up there in age, but always been a really, really solid safety, not even solid star. But other than that, we don't love what we're seeing. That's the consensus. So we're gonna go with a C- on the secondary.
All right, and there we have it. Packers suck, so we will knock that. We'll knock that out off screen.
Off screen,
but exactly. But we'll come back next week. We'll try to hammer out the AFC North too, if we are able to. Maybe we can just kind of coordinate that on the Discord or something like that. And once I get this keyboard fixed. I will throw all of our links in the description. I might just have to. It might be a weird setting thing or something. But anyway, that is the show for today. So we're going to revisit this topic next week. We're going to talk AFC and NFC South. And again, we're just going to kind of build up to the point where we can put together something of a power rankings going into the season based off of these grades. And I think going through by position group will kind of force us to think it through a little bit. And then instead of, thinking about the team and maybe just kind of the vibe we get from a team, we'll be able to go back to what we thought about each aspect of the team and kind of, keep ourselves honest in that regard. So that I'm looking forward to. It'll be a few weeks out now. But the rest of the week, you can check out Another Damn Fantasy podcast that is on Wednesdays right here on Bite Size Sports. The Bounce is right after that on Thursdays at 9, 8 Central, where Kev and James talk through the NBA and all things hoops. We've got a bunch more content coming in the near future. And I mentioned this at the top of the show as well, but we are just nearing the launch of our team-specific NFL podcast, Bite Size NFL. So I will be recording the first episode of Bite Size Vikes here within a week or so, and we'll have several team-specific podcasts launching. So keep an eye out for that. Those will be weekly audio and video, so you can catch them right here on YouTube, or if you're driving, whatever, catch them on Spotify and stay up to date around the league. Gentlemen, any last words before we bid the good people adieu?
I'm good. I think you hit all the bases.
Yeah, thanks for watching, everybody, sticking with us. As we mentioned at the top of the show, we're gonna have a giveaway as soon as we hit 700 subscribers on YouTube. And that could be anything. We might do like a break on here, some sports cards. Maybe give the best one away. We'll autograph Andrew Booth the second. And then we'll give that away, and then at least he can stay on your field. But we'll have something fun like that. Who doesn't love autograph cards, stuff like that? So thank you so much for everybody subscribing and stuff like that. And I hope that everybody tunes in next week.
Appreciate you, Lee, for checking it out. And all you viewers, if we didn't catch it in the chat, thanks for lurking and watching as well. We really do appreciate you. We'll see you same time right here next week at 9, 8 Central for another episode of Necessary Roughness here on the Bite Size Sports Network. Until then, take it easy, guys. Thanks again.
Peace, boys. Sorry.
It's still live.